So you think you want to live in a van? We've been living in our van for the past 10 months, and before you take the leap, here are 10 things that we think you should know.
Also, we absolutely love living in our van. These are just the things that we struggle with daily.
First up are the necessities. Power, propane, water, pretty much anything that you have at the flick of a switch when you're living in a home. We always have to be aware of how much power we have. That way we can make sure our refrigerator stays running, that we have lights, that we can even turn on our water pump, because without power, it's like a big snowball effect. We can't even use our water. Some of our propane features we can't use either. So we always have to be aware of how much power we have. When it comes to propane, you definitely don't want to be out in the middle of a remote area cooking a dinner and then all of a sudden you run out of propane. There's nothing worse than having to go back into town to get propane or water or anything like that. When it comes to water, we always have to be super aware of how much water we're using and how much water we actually have in our tank. Unless you're staying in a campground all of the time, you really don't have that much access to water. So you have to be extremely aware of your water consumption, because nothing would be worse than to be in the middle of a shower or washing dishes and then guess what? Whoops, you ran out of water and now you have to drive 20 or 30 miles to go fill up somewhere.
Which leads us to item number 2, showering. Unless you're staying in a campground full time, then you're not going to have a shower every day. We have a full shower in our van, but we only use it 1 to 2 times a week because we're typically in remote areas where water isn't readily available. We have to be cognizant of our water usage because we don't always know when or where we're actually going to fill up next. You learn to take sink baths, use wipes, or even bathe in the river. So this is pretty common in van life, so be prepared to not have a shower every day.
Number 3 is not having service. This is something you definitely need to be prepared for. So often we're in remote areas that we can't get anything to upload or download, so we're always having to run out into town to get service so we can see a map or upload a YouTube video. And it's just something that we never really considered when we started van life. I think something that we'll probably end up getting in the future is Starlink, but the area we're headed to next, they don't currently service. So if the areas you're going to be in are serviced by them, that might be something you want to consider.
Item number 4, be able to fix things when they break. We built out our entire van, which took us forever. Not only did it save us a bunch of money, it also gave us the knowledge to be able to fix things when they break, which is important considering this is your house and you can't just call up a handyman, plumber, or whatever you may need in order to fix the items that break, because inevitably you're going to be somewhere remote where there's no service and you're going to have to figure it out.
Number 5 is getting used to a tiny space. Even though we have one of the larger vans on the market, it's still only 78 square feet, which most of that is consumed by our kitchen area, our shower, our benches, and our bed. So really and truly, you only have about 18 square feet that you can actually walk around and use. So if anyone's cooking, the other person pretty well just has to chill on the bed, on a bench, or maybe even in a swivel seat up front. You really can't do anything. When you try and pass each other in the hall, you both have to rotate your bodies sideways and just slide by each other. It's a super cramped space, and after downsizing over 1,900 square feet, this has been a really big adjustment for us.
Item number 6 is finding a place to stay. One big aspect of van life is you never know where you're going to stay, and it's something you're going to have to adjust to. We've been to many spots where we thought we had a perfect place to stay, but something felt off or it was just a little sketchy, so we had to relocate. Staying in beautiful remote areas isn't always an option, and sometimes you're going to have to stay at truck stops, Walmarts, or even rest areas, so that's something else that you're going to have to adjust to.
Number 7 is loneliness. Van life can be extremely lonely, especially when you're traveling all of the time. Whether you're solo or traveling with a partner, it still can become super lonely not getting to hang out with your friends on a regular basis or see your family. Luckily in today's times we do have things like FaceTime, but we all know that's definitely not the same as hanging out in person. So whenever we're in an area that we have friends, we always make sure to stop in because it's so nice to see a friendly face when you've been on the road for so long.
Item number 8 is trash and recycling. If you're camped out for several days at a time, that stuff can pile up really quickly. Recycling has been one of the harder things that we've had to deal with because a lot of the recycling centers don't actually accept everything that we have to recycle. Like when we were in Wyoming and Montana, and they didn't accept like the food containers, like the clamshell containers, like your spinach and things come in. So we had to carry that around for months. When we were doing our layout, we didn't design a designated space for our trash and recycling, so everything gathers in our shower. Even if we had planned a designated space, it wouldn't have been large enough for all of our recycling.
Number 9 is bad weather. And I know this sounds ridiculous because we didn't even think about this before moving into the van. If it's raining or snowing or way too hot or way too cold, it really just sucks being in the van. When it's raining and your dog has to go outside and use the bathroom, you both come back in and track water and dirt and all kinds of crap into the van, which that's a whole nother story about keeping the van clean. And we don't have an air conditioner on our van, so like last week when we were in a heat wave in Washington, we had to park in the shade the entire time, so guess what? Our batteries died. Then we had to move our van into direct sunlight and pretty well just hotbox it for the majority of the day. That way our refrigerator could keep going. So these are all just little things that you don't even think about before you actually get into that scenario.
Number 10, not having a real bathroom. We have a toilet in our van, but we only want to use it to go number 1 unless an emergency presents itself. Cleaning the toilet is not very appealing and quite gross, so we've become comfortable going to the bathroom in nature, at pit toilets, or even in public bathrooms. Be prepared to be comfortable pooping outside your comfort zone.
Well, nature's calling. Gotta go. We'll see you next week.